on track to graduate, and then we're able to get them back to their original schools where hopefully they'll get to graduate with their graduating class. We did 3 visits this year. We did a visit to Kirtland Community College. We did a visit to North Central Michigan College, and we did a visit to Alpena Community College. We chose those, number one, because of their close proximity, and number two, they have both academic and trade pathways for our students. We have a number of kids who, excuse me, who are more, I think, trade skill geared, and so it seemed like that would be a better, or at least it would cover a more wide range of different fields for our females. Our community service projects were down this year. The staff did kind of a remodel at Inverness of the building, or the classrooms that we use, and so there was a little bit less availability for them to lead our community service work throughout the county, but we did do the Cheboygan area backpack and food program. We did several days of rails to trails trash cleanup along the rails to trails here in Cheboygan County. They did a Cheboygan County Fair food and hygiene giveaway where they gave away over 500 bags of things to youth who were at the fair. And then we did some cleanup around the Cheboygan area schools during the summer. And then at the bottom I list just some of the extracurricular things outside of traditional educational programming that we offer our students, or that we offered them at least in 2025. We do job training through MSUE, which I'm a big proponent of. We've got we've got one young lady right now who's about to turn 18. She's not at work. Her circumstances are probably not ideal home, but we're getting her into a job training program, and they're going to help her get a job, and they're going to do some of those things. Also, that program has well, never mind. I'll come back to that in a second. We do teen dating violence. We do substance abuse weekly counseling for our juveniles. We do tutoring for them to help bring their grades up. We do individual counseling. We do prevent to protect. We offer summer school, credit recovery. We do driver's safety classes. A lot of them don't have the means to get a driver's license, which sounds crazy compared to where I came from and what my life was, but it's more challenging now, and we offer that through there. We do up north prevention. We've had Army, Navy, and Coast Guard recruiters come out to the facility, meet with the kids, give them some information regarding that, suicide prevention, anger management, domestic violence classes. And Corey Hebner from the MSP comes in and does a life skills class for them as well. So we offer a lot of non-traditional educational offerings. Excuse me. One of the things that's been kind of exciting, and I've mentioned this in the past, but we've had a lot of people outside of Cheboygan County inquire about our program, visit our program. We just had some individuals from Cadillac who were here last Friday for the entire day, so that was great. I did speak at the Michigan annual school board conference in front of a pretty significant crowd about our program. Spencer Bird, who was the superintendent here at Cheboygan, was there, presented with me as well about our partnership. We had it was excuse me, I had a little bit of a cough here. We had a lot of jurisdictions from up after, a lot of communities want to speak about it. From that, we've had some communications going forward. I spoke for the State Court Administrator's Office, did a webinar for them about our program, how it's funded, some of that information for jurisdictions. And then I did a webinar for the ISDs of the state of Michigan here several weeks back. So we're really like our program, and we get a chance to spread some information. A lot of communities are starting to do similar type things. Obviously every community is different, their space available is different, their school districts are different, they have different there's a lot of players that are involved in doing this. But they're starting to become I'm gonna call it a movement, that might be a little bit ambitious, but there's starting to be some attention to this type of dealing with, kids who are truant, academically behind, or have substance abuse behavior issues. So I guess that's all I got. Any questions?
Some may not know, he is often of repute because he's the girls' basketball coach and coach of the championship team in Inland Lakes, so. Talk about
Tell you what,
volunteerism.
The key is having when you got the horses, I look like I know what I'm doing, but I just show up and roll the balls out and say, let's go, guys. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Excuse me. When did the Compass Academy become reality?
So I decided that I was going to run for this position in 2018. Judge Bledson decided he was not going to seek re-election. They had SEPA. I don't know if you recall, SEPA was out there. And so when I ran, no one decided they were going to run against me. I had a little bit of time to sort of, line up some of the things I wanted to do. So I reached out to like Megan Fenlon, Kyle, and some of the staff that was in place and started to say, hey, here's a little bit of a vision I have for how we can make this better. Back in 2008, when I was about to be elected prosecutor, Judge Pavlich had reached out to me and asked me about doing starting the drug court program. Now it's called, I think it's called recovery court, but it was drug court back. And so we went to like a national training in Nashville. We went to several other trainings in the state of Michigan, and I really started to kind of appreciate the model of the drug court programming. And so in 2018, I sort of took a lot of the things I liked about that and created a program, or created the program, and ultimately named it Compass, but that created what this is. Now, there are juvenile drug courts and there are juvenile mental health courts through the state of Michigan. However, I feel like those are so narrow in scope, and we don't have a large enough population base I think it would exclude too many people. So we've sort of created a hybrid specialty court, is what I would call it. We address mental health issues. We have a mental health professional from CMH who goes out there every week with our group to address our juveniles. We have substance abuse counselors, so we kind of encompass both of those things, and then we've sort of incorporated the schools to encompass truancy, incorrigibility, so it's much more broad. I mean, in a larger community, I'm sure in Wayne County or Genesee or Hingham, you probably could have just a drug court for juveniles, and there's enough population that it would fill it up. We just don't have enough, I don't think, for that, so we've sort of had to adapt and evolve. Did that answer your question?
Well, I just want to say I really appreciate the fact, and the point that I'm leading into here is that you've really developed several programs since you became judge, and we're very appreciative of that. And I think that with anything, even back with the Compass Academy, there was a little bit of pushback, because there was a little bit of reluctance as to whether it would work and whether we wanted to put the effort into that. And so what I'm trying to allude to here is that we're at a point, you and previous Sheriff Claremont put together a program and through the county obtained grants for our juvenile cells program. And I'm wondering if we could have some discussion on that and where we're at with that and where you see it going from here.
I think one of the big, where that's at, I know we met a few months ago and there was some discussion about whether this would be a court-run program for the juvenile cells or whether it would be a county-run. I think originally we had went down the path of county-run, but there's been some discussion as to where we're going to go with that. As far as where it's headed, I guess I don't know. for sure. I think one of the differences between Compass and the juvenile holding cells is Compass is, you have one department who is in charge of it, and I think that makes it easy. I think it's more complicated when you have several different departments or agencies who are involved and have to be, I guess, completely aligned perfectly for it to happen. And everyone has different, staffing issues. Everyone has different, goals or concerns. So I think that's one of the complicating factors with the juvenile holding cells is that, I don't think it's a possibility if there's not full and complete, everyone's aligned. And I think everyone wants it. I just think it's challenging because I don't know that everyone has the same, word I'm looking for here. It's very complicated, I guess, at this point, is what I would say.
Well, I think that, we began this project, or I should say you began the project, and then Sheriff Claremont and then Sheriff Cook were very involved and created the dynamics of the paperwork. And I see when you go back and you say that it was going to be a county run or the court run, and at that point, it was going to be my understanding of it, and perhaps Commissioner Claremont can help me with that, because I have retired. And it was supposed to, be run with the help of the Sheriff's Department at that point. And we no longer have that component in there. It's my understanding that everyone wants to put it onto your shoulders. So I look to our county administrator, and because you're here today giving your presentation, I felt it was a golden opportunity for us to have some discussion and find out where we're at, because I see it sitting, over $50,000 or $500,000 in grants to create this, and it sits empty because of the fact that we can't seem to come to common ground with this. And I just don't understand that. And I'm not putting it on your shoulders by any means.
Right.
But I don't know how it went from a multi-department, endeavor, coming back to where they want you to do it all, and we're not making any headway with it. So, the state supplied us with those grants, and I'm sure that they expected some return for their dollar, and we've got none. It sits empty and completed today.
Mr. Chair, if I might make a comment, and I spoke to one of your
Please.
counterparts, Judge McGraw, if you know, downstate, one of the largest, biggest judges around. The rules frankly have changed since then. The liability, in my eyes, as a county, I great caution, locking up kids, put them in there and have one of them die on our watch or something, especially when we don't have, because the rules are so strict now. I mean, they can't even have common sight or line of sight of anyone that's not a juvenile.
Well,
They
that's
can't
why
hear them. I realize that, but now they can't even eat in the same, these rules have gotten so, I don't know how you would administer that myself. That's just my opinion. And I think that changes a lot of what, has happened. Your question is what has changed? A lot of it is the rules and the law, in my eyes.
Gentlemen, Dale?
So I guess that's my question. When we started this project, we applied, you and I worked hand in hand in this, and we received over $500,000 of state and county taxpayer dollars to do this. And have the rules changed since we started this? I mean, I never saw that. And the original plan was that we were going to have this be a county-run facility. We sent 4 of our corrections officers, our corporals at the time, to be trained. They were state certified. So the state apparently said that we could do it. And then we finished this project. I mean, it was me, then Sheriff Cook, and you were involved in it all the way. It's my understanding that this facility was inspected and it's ready to go. And I've heard this before, that the rules have changed, but what rules have changed? I don't know that to be true.
I guess I'm not aware of any like rules changing. I think a lot of the things that, you know, were raised, I think were true back then as well. I don't think there's been any significant changes in that regard. I think the biggest difficulty is, there's county run and there's court run. And the problem with I think one of the big sticking points becomes, if it's county run, if it's court run, we have 2 beds. So we're gonna have up to 2 juveniles that are in those beds. As far as what you mentioned, all of the sight and sound, at least my understanding is, at least as of a year ago, all of those issues had been approved and those were no longer factors that were in consideration. But that was my understanding. As far as a court run, from my vantage point, the difficulty is this: you have 2 juveniles, and to staff it independently of the sheriff's department becomes problematic, because you're going to have 1 or 2 people staff this thing all the time, and the expenses of that to bring in an entire staff of people to monitor 2 cells would drive the cost up substantially. There is the child care fund. There is some money that would provide some financial assistance from the state or federal level to assist in that, but ultimately the cost becomes substantial. Presqu'île tried to do a very similar project once we got rolling, and they liked the thought of it, and they were going to go as a court-run program, and don't quote me, but my understanding is that they pulled the plug on it because the finances just don't make sense. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was going to be in excess of $1,000 a night to house a juvenile in their facility, and or even perhaps ours, and that just becomes such a burdensome number that we wouldn't use it. We can hopefully find beds for other places if we have to. We could send them out of state for cheaper than that. I think that's one of the issues. The problem with the county run is, getting through some of the obstacles that exist with that. Obviously staffing is an issue. It's my understanding the sheriff's department has some staffing issues with their jail at this time, and so really that's what I was saying, is it's complicated, and I think that's where this thing is kind of come to a screeching halt. Is it's built, it's ready to go, it's passed inspections. I believe almost all of, if not all of those boxes have been checked. The next part, if this is going to come to fruition, would be how it's going to be managed, and that's complicated. So I think I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it does, but we mitigated all of those issues when we first started this project. When we started this thing, 2020?
It's been several
We
years.
started the research and development of this, and we did it because of 3 things. Number 1, the families and juveniles. They were our top priority, right? You're the probate judge, and I don't have to preach to the choir on that.
I think the
Number 2,
issues, can I interrupt you on that?
Yep.
The issues are this: we have a really hard time finding beds for kids. Two different situations. One, where we have a juvenile who, has violated probation several times, and we need to send a message like, hey, we need to have some level of accountability. So we try not to put juveniles in detention. It's a last resort. But at times you just go, this is just got to happen. And so that's one pile. The other pile is where we have juveniles who were very concerned about public safety, and this is a juvenile who's very aggressive or violent or has made threats. And in a lot of these cases, we'll get an assessment done, and the assessment is, we have concerns. And I think, you mentioned things have changed. I think one of the big changes that perpetuated this movement toward our own holding cells was the state sort of was getting out of the housing juveniles business, and it was sort of transferring it over to private sector places, and the private sector ones aren't overly eager to take highly aggressive, violent kids. They want, I don't want to say they cherry pick, but they kind of cherry pick. You know, and we got an unruly kid. They are like, we don't want that juvenile. I'd say the one other thing that sort of merged onto the freeway is raise the age. And it used to be 17 was the age of majority, and then it became 18. So we have a whole nother group of kids now that are now juveniles. So the state has more juveniles, less facilities, or more restrictive facilities, and it's created a backlog of kids who, you know, for whatever reason, we need to put them somewhere, but we either can't find a spot or there aren't spots available. And so that's, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's sort of the one thing that really has changed is that. So now we've got a bit of a problem that we're trying to address.
And we were addressing the raise the age even when we started this project. And so I see in your budget, one of the biggest line items is $501,520 under juvenile facility. And I see juvenile delinquency at 63, one of the highest. The whole reason we started this was to address, to assist the families and the juveniles, to cut the costs. We were sending some of these juveniles as far away as Texas. Now, how do you fix a kid and a family when you've got that kind of separation? And so the cost, the time, that was the whole idea behind starting this thing. We've mitigated all of those issues that the state said existed. And I give all the credit to then Under Sheriff Tim Cook. As you know, he did hours and hours and hours of research and talking with the state and getting this thing. And I just, I think it's a shame that we've used over $500,000 in taxpayer money. The facility sits there unused, and Cheboygan County said we were going to use it. If we're not going to use it, maybe we need to consider refunding that money. That, to me, my signature is on that, saying we were going to do this, and now it sits vacant.
We have sent kids, we never actually sent a kid to Texas. We were going to, we had sent kids to Illinois. And I forgot to mention this, I think one of the other big problems that we have is, other than the Sioux tribe, which is in St. Ignace, which is incredibly selective. They are very, if the juvenile is not a member of National Honor Society and is involved in 3 sports and is a, top 10 of their graduating class, I should probably be careful what I say, but they're pretty selective in who they take. They're not gonna just take a lot of our kids, they'll just say, we're not gonna take that kid. Other than that facility, we're taking kids to Ann Arbor, we're taking, Washtenaw County, we're taking them to, Huron County, Jackson. So there are no facilities within, Bay County is probably the closest, which is Bay City, which is a couple hours away. So you're not only